Hey guys, Uncorrupt here. We're going to be taking a look at my personal Theorycraft of the Wildseed Hunter list for the upcoming Murder at Castle Nathria Hearthstone expansion. One small thing here I'd like to say though, after you open all of your Castle Nathria packs, if you don't have the cards to be able to build this deck, I would actually recommend waiting 1 to 2 weeks before you craft any card whatsoever from the expansion, just because it's going to take that amount of time for the community to figure out what cards and what decks are actually good. And I know we're all on limited resources. You don't want to be spending dust on cards that just aren't going to be good and aren't going to be playable. What's good on day 1 may not be good on day 3, and definitely may not be good on like week 2, for example. So getting actually into the deck here though, we're focused on the Wildseed package in Hunter, and the Wildseed package is actually small enough that it could go into a variety of different Hunter decks. So for me personally, Hunter is just an aggro deck. It's an aggro class. The hero power goes face for 2. And I just really like that about Hunter. So I wanted to kind of lean into that theme for this Theorycraft. And then I also, for this deck, the last, I think, 2 expansions, aggro Hunter has kind of revolved around Doggy Biscuit and Ramming Mount. And that's Hunter just being able to buff minions that are on the board, even in the aggressive archetypes. And again, for me, flavor-wise, I just don't prefer that. And so now that we have, say, the infuse keyword, I think it also makes sense to potentially go wide on the board and not necessarily go tall with just, 1 or 2 individual minions. So I wanted to try going wide and leaving those buffs actually out of the deck. So just kind of going down the list here, Batty Guest, new card. It's 2 minions in a single card, so that's going to help us with our infuses here. And it just seems like a solid 1-drop to be able to start off the deck with. Also running 2 copies of Click Clocker. Again, it's just a 1-drop. It's going to be a little bit more sticky because of the Divine Shield, but also specifically added in because we're also running the K9-Otron here. So just a little bit of mech synergy there with those. 2 copies of Iron Deep Trog. Again, this is a card that's just going to replicate itself if your opponent is playing spells and not actually killing the minion. So again, keeping with that theme of going wide and really trying to be able to infuse our infuse cards that we have included in the deck as well. 2 copies of Tracking, I think pretty much core in every Hunter deck. The card is just so strong, being able to fish through your deck to try to find what you need at any given time. 2 copies of Amalgam of the Deep. This is, something that I could see possibly being cut from the deck as we can get in and actually experiment once we can play the deck on live servers. We're potentially going to be able to copy a mech. That might not be necessarily the best thing, but as we'll see farther when we get down on the list, there's going to be Nagas. We could potentially copy Nagas, as well as there's going to be Beasts in the deck also. So I like it because it puts a minion on the board, and it's going to put a card in our hand most of the time. There's going to be times where we play this on 2, and there's nothing to really be able to get a minion off of, but I like Amalgam of the Deep, at least in theory. And when you look through the cards that could potentially take this slot, I think you're looking at something maybe like a Doggy Biscuit. And again, I was kind of going out of my way to avoid that card just to see if we can put together a deck that's going to be able to work without it. And then also by not including something like a Doggy Biscuit, we potentially make our Codobanes a little bit better. So we only have 2 different cards in that 2 slot, 4 copies total, and that's going to be our Quick Shots as well as our Frenzied Fang. So that's going to be a little bit better, I think, than hitting a Dog Biscuit on, turn 5, turn 6, when we're able to get the Codobane down. K9-Otron, as I mentioned, really this is just for Dredge. Dredge is actually, a pretty powerful mechanic, at least or especially the first time, being able to look at those bottom 3 cards of the deck and try to find something that we're missing to be able to fill out our curve or hit one of the Wildseed cards and really try to set up a power spike. And then we've also included 6 1-drops, 2 copies of 3 different cards. So potentially if we hit those on the bottom of the deck, we're actually just able to get 2 minions on the board for only 2 mana. And again, that just keeps in with the theme of trying to go for the infuse cards and really be able to power those up. So I actually skipped over this card, but Frenzy Fangs, also one of the new Hunter cards, summons 2 minions. So again, we're going wide, keeping in mind the infuses, and of course with this deck we're just going to be punching our opponent in the face. So 2 bodies in a lot of cases are harder removed than just 1. And then it also has the added bonus of infuse, and if you can actually get it infused, it's going to summon 2 3/3s, which is really good value for only 2 mana. 2 Quick Shots. Hunter always looking for that reach, especially at aggro decks, and then potentially we could cycle with those. Spirit Poacher, incredibly powerful new card. I think it's been rated very highly, certainly by myself. I've tried to avoid other people's card reviews as we're coming into the expansion. Just because I was doing my card reviews, feel free to check those out on the channel. But because I didn't want to ruin my own point of view, I wanted to have my own thoughts and not try to, homogenize with maybe what the rest of the community was thinking. But this card seems really insane. The Wild Seeds are really strong. It's going to give us 2 bodies for only 2 mana. And it's just a really good card. Auto include, of course, because we're throwing in the Wild Seed package. Stag Charge, another really strong card, deal 3 damage, summon a random dormant Wild Seed. Again, I'm expecting the Wild Seed package to be really strong. At 3 mana, this is really good. It's going to have synergy with our Barak Kodobane, and it still allows us to be able to get 3 damage face. So, it does do just a little bit less damage than Aim Shot, considering Aim Shot is going to buff our next hero power, but it is damage, and the Wild Seeds just look to be like a really, really incredible and incredibly powerful cards. 2 copies, of course, of Wild Spirits. Again, this is just part of the Wild Seed package. One thing that I would note here when I was watching the Theory Crafting streams is that when you play this, it actually discounts the 2 Wild Seeds that are summoned by this card. So it'll discount existing Wild Seeds on the board, as well as the 2 Wild Seeds that are summoned by this. So this card is just absolutely disgusting, in my opinion, with how strong that it is. Getting in here to the 4-drops, I've included 2 copies of School Teacher, which may look just a little bit weird, but I've been really high on School Teacher in Hunter decks for a while now. And the reason why is because Hunter just has such great options at the 1, 2, and 3 mana slots. And of course, I guess there is the 0 mana Devouring Swarm, but you think Hunter has access to damage in the form of a lot of different cards, Quick Shot, Aim Shot. Now, of course, Stag Charge is going to be in that, as well as Draw. We could potentially hit Tracking, we could potentially hit like a Furious Howl. So I really think School Teacher has the opportunity, especially with the fact that it's a Discover, being able to pick 1 of 3, to be able to hit something really powerful. And then it also generates that 1/1 token that, again, is going to be a minion on the board that potentially is going to die and is going to work towards infusing our Infuse cards. So I really think this card has the potential to be good. And certainly the Discover pool has gotten significantly better because the spells that Hunter has picked up in this expansion are on the higher end of spells for the class as well, at least in my opinion. Also, 2 copies of Twinbow Terror Coils. This card feels like it should be good, but it could just be that the text is strong, but the fact that you have to pay 4 mana for it is maybe just a little bit expensive. So the idea behind including this is it should be pretty easy to activate because of the number of spells that we're running in the deck. And then after you play this, being able to repeat Stag Charge, extra damage, and an extra Wild Seed, or being able to repeat, even just Tracking, being able to pull 2 cards out of your deck for only 1 mana is just insanely strong. Of course, Quick Shot for the damage. Maybe we're summoning 4 minions off of this instead of 2. So Twinbow Terror Coil, again, this is a card that could be on the chopping block if it doesn't perform well, but I think that it actually deserves to be tested. This card could be really good with the rest of the package. Twinbow Terror Coil, if it's actually repeating a Wild Spirits, we would be summoning 4 Dormant Seeds, and then we would be reducing those or making them awaken 2 turns faster. So it just feels like the potential is really there to be strong, but again, the card could be just a little bit too expensive to actually be effective in a deck like this, or maybe even just overall. Also, Wild Seed package, new card, Erelon. Summon 1 of each dormant Wild Seed. So if we have a bunch of dormant Wild Seeds on the board, this is going to give us a lot of minions. And, the body itself is not totally inconsequential as a 4/5. So you're going to get your value as long as you have even a single dormant Wild Seed on the board. And, of course, the more you have, the stronger it's going to be. Definitely an auto include for the Wild Seed package. Barak Kodobane, pretty standard in Hunter decks that are running a significant number of spells, just because it's solid card draw. In most cases, you're going to be able to draw 3 cards, at least probably 2 cards. Hero card, again, this is just an auto include for me pretty much in every Hunter deck because the hero card is just so powerful. We definitely want it in the deck. And then Huntsman Altamore here, again, just a really, really strong card, and it's going to be a good payoff, especially if we're able to infuse it. Certainly the first infuse, and of course if we can infuse 8, it's going to be really, really incredible. So this is going to be my Theory Crafted list. I'm Uncorrupt. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Murder at Castle Nathria.